Hello everybody and welcome to another hair-raising, fun-filled, expeditious episode of Radiorama, where as the name implies, I show you how to work on radios, sometimes televisions, stereos, other things that work on glowing vacuum tubes. And today we have a rather large tombstone. This is a 1938 Spartan model 538, and this was donated to us a few days ago. I think it's a very attractive looking piece. We have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tube set. That's not exactly amazing. It's interesting that they would choose to put it in such a huge cabinet. I've got a 5Y3 for the rectifier, 6F6 for the output. There's no label on this for some reason. I'm not really sure why. What do we have here? 6Q7. That's a 3-section tube there. And I'm not going to bother with pulling these guys out quite yet. I do not know the working condition of it. It looks like it's been worked on. I don't think either of these two are original. I'm curious about this because you've got a wire soldered to the case of this electrolytic, which appears to be floating. It's not directly tied to the chassis. So that makes me wonder if what we have here is a reversed polarity capacitor. Why else would you do that? Unless this is actually ground. I don't know why you would do that. Probably need to pull up the schematic. I'm glad that the speaker comes unplugged versus being permanently wired in. Speaker's not rubbing or making any weird noises when I touch it. I wonder if the label's up here. We've got some paper label remnants. But I'm going to pull the chassis and then go briefly look on Nostalgia Air to see what the innards are all about. It'll make more sense when I have the chassis out and I can look at it and compare the two. Okay, well, I got the chassis out. That wasn't too difficult. I'm happy to see that we have cloth wire here, not the awful brittle rubber stuff. Let's flip it over and see what we've got going on inside. And there's surprisingly not many parts in this thing. I can tell it's been worked on in the past. These don't appear to be original. In fact, it looks like someone has put their label on these caps. That probably was with a repair person. Now, I found what they've done here is that wire that was going up to the basically the body of the electrolytic. That's the negative. That's the floating negative right here. We don't need to do that because we're going to put an individual electrolytic here. So this is your positive. That makes sense. That's going to the field coil where you need your B plus pretty heavily there. And then we have another electrolytic here. Here's its positive. It's going to the other side of the field coil, and then this is the ground. That's going to chassis ground. But other than that, let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 capacitors. And probably not crazy values either. A whole bunch of 0.05 rated capacitors. 1/10 of a microfarad Tiger brand capacitors. You can also tell someone's been in here because they marked with pencil which tube is which. I appreciate that because, you know, if you have a problem, then you don't have to continue to flip the thing over. This is not original either. This is clearly a replacement volume control and on-off switch. I kind of wondered about that because the shaft is kind of different compared to the rest of these. Uh-oh. I sure hope that the... What's going on here? We've got a belt and a looks like so there's a belt and a string. What could that possibly be used for? It's like it's covered in some sort of goo. I wonder if maybe this belt was slipping and they just inserted this to make it turn better. But that's going to have to come out of there. It can't stay. The belt seems to be in good shape. Probably once I oil the bearings on this, it'll turn a lot easier. We can deal with that later. That's chicken feed compared to the rest. It's a nice set, and I'm going to replace the electrolytics bare minimum first, and also maybe the coupling cap. Where is that output tube? This is the output tube. And here's the coupling caps. Looks like maybe someone tried to put two capacitors together to get a value. So those two combined, I'll just replace that with a single. This guy is weeping juice. I don't even want to know what that is, but it's going to go anyway. And I don't know. Not much to write home about. Again, it's surprising that it's such a huge cabinet with it's a fancier AA5 is what it is. It's obviously got more than one band. You've got several transformers here. This one appears to have four. Okay, so it's going to be a little more sensitive, quite a bit more sensitive actually, because a typical AA5 would only have 2 transformers. And we have 2 pilot lights. I'm going to wipe the cabinet down a little bit. It's got some cadmium corrosion, which I don't like. Anyway, I don't think I need to get the schematic. This makes sense now that I've seen how that's wired. So I'll just do a typical recap job. Okay, so I've replaced the most critical capacitors here. We have the electrolytics and the coupling caps and a few others. And I think it's ready to bring the big old cabinet up here and bring it up on a variac and see if we make noise. Alright, let's bring her up. Make sure we're turned on. We're not. Bring up the variac slowly. I don't see any pilot lights at all. That's not a good sign. Unless they're loose, or maybe they're both burned out. I don't know. You know, it'd probably help if I plugged the radio in. Hold on a minute. Clearly I'm an idiot. Alright, let's try this again. Bringing it up slowly. I'm getting a little bit of light out of one of those pilot lights. The other one's probably burnt out, unless it's loose. Yeah, it's loose. Alright, it's only at 30%. Bring it up to about 50%. The tubes are dirty. I can't see if they have filaments, but they probably do. If your 6-volt pilot lights are lighting, then you've got filament. So far, so good. Nothing smoking. Let's go ahead and bring it up the rest of the way. I have no clue what band I'm on. Got dirty controls here. I can't change the bands. I need to put the knob on there and try it. Alright, it does seem to be working okay now. The volume control is really dirty. You know, for a one lung radio with just a single output tube, that doesn't sound bad. Probably helps that it's a bigger speaker, but yeah, we're off to a good start. I think what I'm going to do now It's because it's getting dark so early these days. I'm going to do a precursory cleanup on the cabinet while it's still got light out there, because I know this works, so it's totally worth dumping my effort into it. So let's disconnect this chassis, and I'll take this outside, and we'll get my old favorite products, Old English and Harge. All right, so it's time to start cleaning up the case. I think it's in just fine and dandy shape. It's got a little bit of UV damage. I can fix this with a black marker, maybe dab some black paint on it. But what I'm going to do is start off with a heaping helping of Old English. You can get that stuff at the grocery store, probably hardware stores. If you don't live in the United States, I'm not sure if they sell it where you live, but basically it's a product that does a really good job of kind of filling in the damaged, UV damaged and abraded surfaces. You can see already the difference between here and there. Like, it's really brought back a lot of that brilliance. And at the same time, it also fills in all of your abrasions and scratches. So essentially it kind of masks over the wear and tear. And when we get finished doing this, and I find these days I just douse these things with this stuff. So after I do that, I'll let it sit for probably overnight, and then tomorrow I'll do the wax. But I want this to soak in and really get that finish evened out. Okay, well, I saturated it quite well. I did get a little bit on there, though. I'm hoping I can clean that off. Use a little warm water and some detergent gently. It's looking a lot better. I think I'm going to go ahead and put it in because it's starting to get a little towards nightfall here, and I don't want to get any dew on it. Now it's time to resume work on the chassis, so I'm just going to replace as many caps as I can. I'll be honest, I kind of hate recapping. It's so fucking boring, but everyone has to do it if you're going to work on this stuff. Man, the chassis is dirty. I wonder if I should take it outside and clean it first. Alright, I feel better. I cleaned up the chassis, and actually it's pretty sweet. It's not a lot of corrosion on it, much to speak of. So, with that said, let's go ahead and proceed with finishing the recap job. We have quite a few left. If I remember correctly, there's probably about 9 more left. And if you've not replaced capacitors before, in these radios, they're almost always marked with the value. This says 0.05 rated microfarads, 200 volts, working voltage. And so just, you want to replace like with like. You have quite a bit of wiggle room, like probably about 20%. Electrolytics, you have even more wiggle room. It's just that you need to make sure that the capacitance is at or greater the capacitance. And of course the voltages need to be at or greater. You put something in there it's not up to the voltage, it'll go kablooey and you'll be real sad. So I want to just what I tend to do with these guys is I'll remove one lead one at a time and leave the other one connected. Then I'll connect the one end of the new capacitor, then cut the other lead, and then after I cut that, solder the other side of the new capacitor. That way I don't lose my place. And trust me, it's real easy to do. And then you have to go look at the schematic and figure out what you did. So just, a lot of people want to come in and just snip stuff out wholesale. Don't do that. Just take your time. Alright, well, I got all the capacitors replaced. So I think what I do now is clean up all these controls here. This is the volume pot, and this is going to be interesting. I don't see any holes to get cleaner in. I think I could try to just squirt it in there, but I need to clean the wiper. Same with this guy. I need to clean the wafer switch, and then it'll be time to test fire it, make sure it's still working. Alright, now it's time to clean, and well, I already cleaned the pots, but I'm going to lubricate the tuning condenser mechanism to just make everything move a lot more smoothly. Take a little bit of pressure off that belt. There's bearings in the front and the back. There's also the knob, or the tuning shaft. That's already moving a lot better. Okay. Yep. Let me snip that little bit of string out of here. Alright. I don't know why that was in there. I mean, it turns real fine. There's nothing wrong with the belt. Like all the way. All right. So I believe it's time to test fire it, make sure we're still working. Okay, let's test fire this guy. Curious about this eye tube. Is it going to be good or not?
On the election and a big update on inflation that's due later in the week. T500.
They think of Warnock.
Strict virus protocols. Money news at 24 and 54 minutes past each hour. I'm
It's for every day. Which one of station of the seven? For that. Oye a las víctimas, bueno, ahí la dejamos porque esto ya está tremendo. Mejor escuchemos esto.
You heal your life, then connect with Ajay Agarwal.
This thing's sensitive. All right. Happy radio. Oh, fuck. I forgot to look at this thing. All right, let me turn it back on. It's real dim. Need to replace that guy. All right, but the good news is the radio works. Need to replace the cord in it. I'm surprised. This is probably the original cord. I almost hate to replace it because actually it's still very rubbery. There's no cracks or anything in it. Like you can do that and it doesn't crack or anything. It's amazing. But I don't think it's a good idea to sell a almost 90-year-old radio with the original cord on it. So I'm going to replace the cord. And also want to add a safety fuse in between this incoming AC and the transformer so that if something bad happens inside, the fuse will go and avoid damaging other components down the chain. Alright, so I replaced the cord. I actually put a rubber grommet in here, so that's not going to chafe. Tied a knot in it. And I ran out of fuse holders, so what I did was I got some heavy gauge wire and I wrapped it around one end, and then I ran that through the mounting hole and soldered it in there so it's like monolithically solid. And I soldered the other end of the wire here, so that's not going to go anywhere. I did manage to salvage a vintage plug off of another radio that I restored last week, so I put this on here. Makes it look a little more authentic. And so now the next thing I'm going to do is add the oh so famous audio input that I add to all of my sets, and in this case it's going to be pretty easy because we have a transformered set, so the user is already electrically isolated. And so all I really need to do is run a cable through the set and connect directly to the volume pot. I'm going to put the positive side of the input on the top of the volume pot, which has got to be this guy because this is a shielded cable, and that's going to one of the IF and RF related tubes, so that makes sense. It's probably coming off a 6Q7. This is the center, and this is the ground, because that goes to this braided cable that also is attached to chassis ground. So, I will need to put one hole in the chassis, and I think what I might do, for appearance's sake, I was thinking maybe I should drill a hole. Well, I'm thinking here, I don't want the plug to go through all this audio, this radio reception type stuff, because then it'll screw up the signal. I hate doing that. But we have holes here, and that's not anywhere near any sort of radio related stuff, so maybe what I'll do is I'll run it through here. I think I'm going to enlarge the hole and put a rubber grommet in it, but the thing is no one's going to see that. They're not going to see the hole, so the back will look original. I'm just being a little more Careful with this one since it is such a cool looking set. Okay, so we've got our audio connection running in. We've got their two pair of resistors to tie the right and left channels together so we can get true mono. And our negative is going to the chassis. And I put a rubber grommet in the side here and tied a knot. I'll put a little glue on that to keep it from moving around once I get done. But now we're going to try out the set with audio running through it to see if it works. I think it will, so we'll try it, see what happens. Good Lord, that sounds good. I mean, I think it's because I'm surprised it sounds as good as it does, but that's a nice sound. Probably helps you got a gigantic cabinet here to help reverberate all of that. I could just feel that bass. Amazing. This is turning out to be a lovely project, and I bet it's going to look great when it's done. In fact, I'm gonna have to buy this thing for myself. I don't buy a lot of things. I'll think about it. It's a huge thing, so I need to be getting rid of radios instead of buying more. But nifty. All right, we're making good progress. I'm actually going on this so fast. I didn't expect to get this far, and it's only like 5:45. Time change around here. It's getting dark real early, so it feels later than it really is. So I think I'll work on the cabinet a little bit more. Why not? Okay, first thing I'm going to address is some of this missing black toner here. And I'm going to just touch it up with a permanent marker there. Sometimes I'll go over it a few times. But the idea is that we want to disguise all of those wear areas. Because if you do it just right, sure, it's going to look worn, but most of those scratches and stuff will just magically start to disappear. It's a cheap and dirty way of doing it, but it works. And, if it looks terrible when I'm done, we can always go back with a little paint. But I think that will probably work. My marker seems to be drawn out. I think I need to get another marker. But just go over all these little nicks and things. And now, I'll finish the rest of that later. I know it's probably not very exciting to watch me do that. Now I'm going to start waxing the cabinet with good old-fashioned Carnauba paste wax. Actually, I might touch up some of these guys with a little more Old English. I want to make sure I get that good and saturated. All right, well, it took a little bit of time, but I was able to touch up all the black trim. And I think unless you put your eyeballs next to it, you're not going to be able to really tell that much. Anyway, it's kind of nice to try to preserve the original finish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the woodwork with Carnauba paste wax. And what that's going to do is kind of seal in and bring back the original sheen from the surface when it was new. Again, I think I need to wet these guys up a little bit with some more Old English before I do that, but then I'll start waxing. All right, so this is after one pass with the wax. Quite a bit of ways to go. There's a lot of unevenness in the sheen, but we want to continue working on it. This is a big case, but it's too small and there's too many details for me to use my mechanical buffer on it, so I'm having to do it by hand, which means probably tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up with really sore knuckles. All right, so I've probably spent a couple hours buffing this out, and finish is definitely pretty worn in some areas, but I think this is as good as it's going to get for being an original finish. I think overall it'll present pretty well, especially when I put that dowel back in there. Kind of a hefty radio to have to maneuver around like that. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. Yes, it's not perfect. It's got a little wear and tear around the edges here and there, but otherwise for being a 80-something-year-old radio, it's really not that bad. Again, I always kind of prefer an original finish over one that's been refinished, even if it's a little bit rough. Because once you strip all that off, you won't have that patina, and I dig the patina. Anyway, I'm going to leave it sitting here for maybe a couple hours just to make sure that anything that might thermally break down, being stuffed into the cabinet and having the chassis covered, if anything's going to thermally fail, I'd rather find out now. So I've already had it on for an hour, and the transformer is still just a little bit warm. If you had a power transformer that was getting really, really hot, that's concerning. But then your fuse should hopefully take care of it if anything goes really haywire. I don't think that's the case with this one. It seems like the transformer is running as it should. All right, well, I had a lot of fun working on this guy. I think it's going to make someone really happy. I mean, I think it's very attractive, and if I do, I get a feeling others will as well. So anyway, guys, until the next time a radio comes across my workbench, which will be very soon, see you guys next time. Adios.